Hello everyone, today I would like to talk about the many benefit men derived from their relationships with women. And I chose to use the term stealing, because so much of what we women contribute to society, as well as in relationships, are considered to be of no value. We women are all raised to perceive ourselves as inferior to men. This is reinforced as we go through the different stages of development. So, whether we realize it or not, the constant bombardment of such subliminal messages contribute to a large amount of the decision-making of our subconscious, as well as how we perceive ourselves and our role in society. Even though everybody benefit from everything we women have to offer, society never acknowledges it. It is time we stop deluding ourselves that celebrated days like Valentine's and Mother's Days are truly meant to celebrate us women in a way we have been groomed to believe. This couldn't be further from the truth. These are traditions that indoctrinate women to feel special for making themselves available to the patriarchal system as nothing more than body parts. How can those 2 days a year erase the fact that women's contribution to society worldwide have consistently and systematically always been barely mentioned? Except for the few token examples of women who are paraded in the history books at school. We, women, are erased through the silent demands and expectations placed on our lives, our bodies, our hearts and our wombs. Despite the fact that we women always give ourselves so willingly as a labor of love, without ever expecting to be compensated for all we do. And yet, much to our despair, we women, almost always, end up finding out the hard way that it is never enough. And the reason why it is never enough is because behind those silent expectations and demands are the call for self-sacrifice. Something no one ever warns any of us about. Something no self-respecting male narcissist could ever do. And yet, like any self-respecting insatiable beast suffering from narcissism, everything is never enough. So, from the men in our beds, to the children we raise, to the patriarchal system and the matrix we live under. Of us women, more is always required, on every level. And to meet those demands, the powers that be never hesitate to threaten us, punish us, humiliate us into compliance, take us by force, put pressure on us, or seduce us into aborting our own potential. Every possible technique, tools of pressure or seduction, are applied in order for the system to get what they want from us women. All the while making sure that every generation of women are prevented at any cost from understanding how valuable they are to society and how much women contribute, beyond cleaning houses, serving and reproducing. Because only through enforced state of self-doubts, confusion and despair, can users, manipulators, takers and juicers, can take control of other people's mind and lives. Yup. Those are typical, narcissistic techniques, that operates both on the individual level, as well as on the societal level. And what men steal from women are far more valuable than money. Because they steal time, life force, free will, and the opportunities to fulfill entire destinies. As they subtly shift our timelines to benefit them. Women think of marriage as the secure and sacred space to create a new family offshoot. Not realizing that men see marriage as an exchange of services. Not all that different from the transaction they have with the ladies of the night. All over the planet, women are brainwashed to believe that to be chosen for marriage is the most important milestone of their lives. And for that concocted privilege, all women must hand over their destinies in exchange for the promise of affection and the financial security needed to raise children. Which means that women are systematically relinquishing control over their lives, as well as aborting their own potential, in exchange for shelter, food, clothing and transport. Even at a time when any woman can afford to provide for herself. And long after making such poor decisions, women all over the world still find themselves being the ones caring for everyone with no compensation or true affection within relationships. And, as if this predicament was not bad enough, the extra shock and betrayal comes when women realize that men act as if their own children are nothing more than an extension of the mother's irrational and extremely irritating needs. And that men ignore their own children on the daily basis, and have to constantly be reminded to make time to bond with their own children. And that those same men only seem to awaken to their parental rights when the mother decides to leave. That's when we see men cry foul and accuse women of trying to take their kids away from them. And such scenario is only one of the many other ugly truths hidden behind the patriarchal propaganda about the importance of waiting for your men and soulmate to start a family of your own. When the truth is, for most women, getting that ring offers no protection against the single motherhood syndrome, or shield the children from experiencing the pain of missing their father. You see, men never miss the opportunity to exercise their dominance by picking and choosing when it suits them to be and act like fathers. And all of this happens within the sanctity of marriage or similar unions. And over time, almost every married woman will also notice how having a man is like having another child to take care of. And they will also notice how adept men are at acting like good fathers and dotted husbands for photo ops and special occasions. Can't help but wonder, is this the reason why Solange attacked Beyoncé's husband in the elevator? Anyway, click on the link above to learn more about men purposefully pretending to be useless. You see, being in relationships with men forces women to expand a lot of energy and life force that cannot easily be regenerated or restored. So many women are unaware of men abusing them in this manner, not knowing that for men, taking more than giving is their modus operandi. This is the same way politicians lie to their constituencies. This is the same way conglomerates operate their business. Always overpromising in order to close the deal, then turning around to always underdeliver, just to extract maximum profits. And they don't care how such actions produces victims. They don't care because all that matters is the bottom line, which means having free access to as many benefits and resources as possible, and always at the expense of others. And isn't that how psychopathy and narcissism work? And again, unbeknown to many women, this is called being very clever, being very practical, and being businesslike. To men, this is not predatory, this is being intelligent. And if you doubt me, just look around and see how big business operates in the world. Then ask yourself the question, who control those businesses, men or women? And ask yourself this next question, how long have men been at the controls, calling all the shots? And this, my sisters, is what men practice in relationships, forcing women to overextend themselves with the sole intention to erode and destroy their partner's self-esteem, so that they can subjugate, control, dominate, and manipulate at will, without fear that she will leave. Because they know that, once a woman is overwhelmed and crippled with self-doubts, she will be less likely to leave. This kind of lopsided exchange in any relationship, where reciprocity is non-existent, is designed to rob the other of the strength to grow, to develop, to thrive, achieve goals, and become accomplished. And that, my sisters, is stealing. Minorities, in many countries, including in this country, have complained about how unfairly their contribution in the war efforts or in building of nations have been dismissed. We hear them call out to the many families of colonizers who grew wealthy from the exploitation of their ancestors. My question is, how is that situation different from the fate of women on this planet? Isn't that the same situation women experience on the daily basis, within the sanctity of their homes at the hands of men? The same men who always swear, in front of God and loved ones, to always cherish us and protect us. So, for example, in this country, part of the black women experience during slavery was to be forcefully impregnated for breeding programs just like animals, in order to create bigger and stronger males for labor. This practice meant that it did not matter if that woman was married or suckling a baby. When the stud had arrived in the plantation, the chosen woman had to submit. From the comfort of our current times, we can only imagine all the ramifications such forced unions caused, with all the psychological and the emotional devastation those women must have experienced. In this example, how can it be denied how all males involved in this system have benefited from women? This is just one example of how men steal straight from the womb of a woman while crushing her spirit. In Europe, when a king became infatuated with a woman, regardless whether that woman was married or betrothed, she was doomed to become the king's mistress. And from that moment on, not only had she had to make herself available to the king, but she also had to endure all the insults about her being a woman of no morals, a gold digger, and unscrupulously ambitious, as well as being accused of having witchcrafted the king to her bed. Here too is a perfect example of men stealing from a woman and denying her of her free will and self-sovereignty, and under the guise of love, would force an innocent party to endure constant humiliation at the court. And how are those situations different from our current times, I ask? When women are still blamed of being the catalyst for men's poor choices, actions and behavior. Just look at the many cases of rapes worldwide to understand this. Look at, for example, the many cases of many royal women in Europe who merely served as political pawns to strengthen alliances between countries, to prevent wars, or to be used as ransoms. Many of those poor souls were put under tremendous pressures to produce a male heir, just so she could be disposed of, or at best to be rewarded by being royally ignored until she produces a spare. This example here is not that different from our current times. And how we are sold, marriage, motherhood, and how important it is for men to have boys to carry on their father's name. Always promising us something marvelous at the end of the rainbow, that never materializes or always turns out to be pure agony. And in the meantime, we keep birthing the future oppressors of our daughters, granddaughters and great-granddaughters. Would you disagree with me if I say that any gain obtained through manipulation, coercion or false pretense is still thieving? And of that, all men are guilty of. By the way, did you know that many governments in times of hardships participated in women trafficking to bring in money into the country to keep its economy afloat? Did you know that in times of war, women are sold into sex trafficking for soldiers' entertainment, with the full knowledge and cooperation from both sides of the warmongers' parties? And did you know that in times of war, little girls are sold to feed the rest of their own families? How can anyone refute the fact that men and the patriarchy have been stealing from women forever? To this day, in many countries all over the world, even in Western countries, the lives of many women are lost because of the patriarchal system of dowries, which is nothing more than a monetary exchange between men, with a father paying another man to relieve him of the burden of having a girl. And the big celebration around the event is nothing more than a clever disguise to gaslight young girls to look forward to willingly abort their own potentials to serve instead the destiny of that man. And what make this sad is that the reinforcers of those traditions are the older women who have become the flying monkeys of the patriarchal system, all flanked by the mothers, who have learned to accept their fate and keep their mouths shut, to avoid becoming pariahs or to be punished. In any of the last three examples that I have cited, the gender that benefit from all this misery are men and the patriarchy. And if those situations don't benefit those women, then this is a clear case of exploitation, which is stealing. Not to forget that in time past, women had no choice but to subject themselves to multiple births for the farming system to work. A farming system that fed the family and the whole country, through the manpower that has always come from the women body. Because without our wombs and nurturing abilities, society can't survive. And yet, Guess who are the best doctors in the fields of obstetrics? Men are. And my question is, why is it so? Here again is another perfect example of men making a living of women's bodies. How did this develop and become the norm, when women are the ones who have helped each other give birth since the beginning of time? How on earth have we become so alienated from our own bodies that men have become the experts at women giving birth? How did this happen? Well, just maybe, it is thanks to a system that has been reluctant for centuries to allow women basic education and then higher education, the very same system that has made it difficult for women to get accepted in those careers and then to get promotions in those careers. Effectively, forcing women out of their own innate sphere of influence and expertise, while simultaneously forcing other women to become accustomed to be treated by men, brainwashing them that it is safe and that men's knowledge is superior to women, leaving many women to experience men like Dr. Huxtable to molest us in impunity, all the while making money and profit of us. Want proofs? Just follow the next story. This is Andrew Yang, first Asian American presidential candidate. And this is his wife Evelyn Yang. The link to her story is in the box below. And just so you know, what happened to her, happened to me too. Wouldn't it be interesting to find out how many other women have had this experience? It is plain to see that men have not only been stealing from women, but they've also been treating us like cattle. And no matter how much effort men put into trying to convince us of their good nature, and how hard they try to remind us to be fair, compassionate towards them and to not generalize, the fact remains that men can't provide any proofs of women's systematic abuse towards them. So when men use their slogan, "Not all men," my question to them is, how do they expect us to figure this out? Or is it that they believe that their suffering is more important than any number of women? And so my question remains, isn't it men who have been in control for millennia and been making every single decision that has impacted our society and planet? Isn't it men who are the gatekeepers and reinforcers of laws that have been oppressing women, overtly or covertly? Since our entire global history points the finger at men, why would it be wrong of women to question or reject the "not all men" slogan? Would it be crazy to think that if the majority of men were good men, as they say they are, would there have been a need for the suffragettes movement, the feminist movement, or the Me Too movement? And those are just a few well-known causes amongst all the causes women have had to create, to force changes in this men's matrix. The saddest part out of all of this is to be forced to realize that part of the irrational expectations put on women includes the fact that men expect us to always exercise our innate gifts of compassion, fairness and empathy towards them, even though they've always made it clear that those are traits of weak and stupid people. So if men's words are laws and their opinions godly, why would they be demanding to be treated fairly by us, of the weaker sex, I wonder? Could it be that they finally intend to reciprocate? Could it be that they intend to change? Or is it that they are counting on us to just be good little femoids? After all, how hard is it for any self-respected narcissist to yank at the heartstrings of someone they know, loves and trusts them? How hard is it for any self-respected narcissist to take advantage of a young girl who is just starting to explore life? And this is why I am urging young women to believe that marriage is a scam that only benefits the patriarchy and its psychopathic system. Because no matter how many chances we give men, they will always choose power and control over equal co-creation with women on this planet. In our modern era, women marry for passion, affection, companionship and to create families, thinking that relationships are about nurturing each other, never suspecting that for men it's all about convenient sex. That for men, it's all about having their own personal ego masseuse, and possessing the most powerful time-saving device, called a femoid. Short for female android. And before that, men used to refer to women as pieces of furniture. You see, the quote that says well-behaved women rarely make history is largely true. Haven't you noticed how the only women in history we are allowed to remember are the ones who took control of their lives, with or without men? And if you pay close attention, you will also notice that, amongst all the good women who have served the patriarchy very well, a lot of them finished impoverished, bitter, ugly, and abandoned, unless they learned how to pretend to be happy. And guess what? Many of those women used to be pretty privileged too. Share your thoughts with us on all the subjects mentioned. Share this video with your girlfriends and daughters, and don't forget to like and subscribe, so you can find out when we next post a video. Stay safe, and adieu for now.